Hello everyone! Last week we talked about Aegwyn and Medivh. Medivh was corrupted, had the spirit of Sargeras inside of him, but Khadgar, Lothar and Garona managed to defeat him. Now he's buried outside of Karazhan, but the moment would come where the world would need someone like Medivh again. Let's begin, shall we? After Lothar, Garona and Khadgar defeated Medivh, they moved to Stormwind and they tried to defend the city from the invading Horde. Garona became an advisor for the king, but Gul'dan had placed a spell on her mind at a very early age, and this spell would turn her into a slave, forced to do whatever they told her to do. They used this spell to force Garona to assassinate the king because, as he himself said,
"We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne, Stormwind will hold."
Tremble, mortals, before the coming of the end.
The York leaders agree with your assessment.
With the king dead, Stormwind quickly fell. Aegwynn and Khadgar took the survivors and made their way to Lothar while Garona disappeared. A very long story follows, so I'll have to keep it short. Basically, the Horde was defeated and the orcs that surrendered were placed in internment camps. Baby Thrall was also found by Blackmoor, who raised him as a slave and a gladiator, so Thrall could fight in his arena and earn him lots of gold. His ultimate plan was to use Thrall to lead the orcs against the rest of the world, so that Blackmoor would become the ultimate ruler. But his plan backfired. Thrall escaped, met his own people, and he freed the orcs from their internment camps. In the end, he killed the one who did him so much harm, Blackmoor, and he reformed the Horde, only this time it would be a more honorable Horde, willing to fight for their own place in this world. Around this time, Medivh enters the story again, and you might wonder, how is that possible? Well, Aegwynn was not killed by Medivh. He only teleported away and she used her magic to see what was going on. And she saw how Medivh was defeated and how the spirit of Sargeras had left his body. She then spent years on collecting her powers and she used this to resurrect her son. This process nearly killed her, stripped her of nearly all her powers, but she did manage to bring back Medivh uncorrupted and ready to save the world from the coming threats of the Burning Legion. Sargeras might have been defeated, but his plans were already in motion. The world was weakened by the struggles between the Horde and the Alliance, and the Burning Legion was about to begin their invasion of Azeroth. Before Medivh began his journey, he first paid a visit to Karazhan, and that's the way the story of the Last Guardian is set up. It's that Medivh sees the visions of Karazhan. He sees what happened in the past with Khadgar, with Lothar. That entire story is told by seeing it through these visions. At the end of the book, Khadgar of the past looks up and he sees Medivh of the future. Remember that past, present and future, they're pretty much fluid within Karazhan, and they talk about the nature of the Guardian. The being on the balcony paused for a long moment, and Khadgar feared that he would fade away. Instead he said, "As long as there are guardians, there is order. And as long as there's order, the parts are there to be played. Decisions made millennia ago set both your path and mine. It is part of a greater cycle, one that has held us all in its sway." Khadgar craned his head upward. The sun was now touching the top half of the tower. "Perhaps there should be no guardians then, if this has been the price?" "Agreed," said the trespasser, and as the strong light of day began to grow, he began to fade. "But for the moment, for your moment, we must all play our part. We all must pay the price. And then, when we have the chance, we will start anew." And with that, the trespasser was gone. That was Medivh's mission throughout Warcraft 3. The Guardian could have stepped up and taken care of the Burning Legion himself, but Medivh had a different plan, and for that plan he would need just a little bit more power. That power came from the Tower of Karazhan itself. He used his magic to absorb all the visions from the tower. Medivh held both hands to his chest tightly, containing all that he had regained. The Tower of Karazhan was just a tower now, a pile of stone in the remote reaches, far from the travel paths. Now the power of the place was within him, and the responsibility to do better with it, this time. "And so we start anew," said Medivh. He transformed into a raven with the mission to unite the world against the Burning Legion. To teach the world that it no longer needed guardians, that Azeroth could rise up and defend itself. He paid a visit to Thrall sometime after he had reformed the Horde.
"You must rally the Horde and lead your people to their destinies."
He paid a visit to the human kingdoms and King Terenas Menethil II.
I will not institute quarantine without proof of your claims, Ambassador. The people of Lordaeron have suffered enough without becoming prisoners in their own lands.
Yet prisoners they are, good king.
What is the meaning of this? Who are you?
Humanity is in peril. The tides of darkness have come again, and the whole world is poised upon the brink of war.
Enough of this. Guards, remove this madman.
Hear me. The only hope for your people is to travel west, to the forgotten lands of Kalandor.
Are you mad?
Hold, Ambassador. I don't know who you are or what you believe, but this is not the time for rambling prophets. Our lands are beset by conflict, but it shall be we who decide how best to protect our people, not you. Now, be gone!
I failed humanity once before, and I will not do so again. If you cannot take up this cup, then I shall find another who will.
They would not listen, so he tried to convince the Magi of Dalaran.
You must be wiser than the king. The end is near.
I told you before, I'm not interested in this nonsense.
Then I've wasted my time here.
He even tried to warn Arthas.
Greetings, young prince. We must talk.
I have no time for this.
Listen to me, boy. This land is lost. The shadow has already fallen, and nothing you do will deter it. If you truly wish to save your people, lead them across the sea, to the west.
Flee? My place is here, and my only course is to defend my people.
Then your choice is already made. Just remember, the harder you strive to slay your enemies, the faster you'll deliver your people right into their hands.
But there was only one human willing to listen to him.
The dead in this land might lie still for the time being, but don't be fooled. Your young prince will find only death in the cold north.
You! Arthas is only doing what he believes is right.
Commendable as that may be, his passions will be his undoing. It falls to you now, young sorceress. You must lead your people west to the ancient lands of Kalandor. Only there can you combat the shadow and save this world from the flame.
Jaina Proudmoore took the people of Lordaeron as many as she could. She took them away from the plague, and she allied herself with Thrall and Cairn Bloodhoof.
That voice. You're no oracle. You're the prophet.
Very perceptive, son of Durotan. I am the prophet. And now that I've lured you all here, I will tell you what destiny holds.
What the hell is going on here?
Thrall, this is Jaina Proudmoore, leader of the survivors of Lordaeron.
Survivors? What are you talking about?
The invasion of the Burning Legion has begun. Lordaeron has already fallen, and now the demons come to invade Kalandor. Only together, united against the Shadow, will you be able to save this world from the flame.
Unite with them? Are you mad?
Have you heard nothing that I've said? The Legion comes to undo history and end all life. Thrall, your friend Hellscream has already fallen under the demon's influence. Soon he and your whole race will be lost forever.
No. I'll die before I let that happen.
Then you must rescue him immediately. He is the key to the destiny I promised you. However, you will need help.
Wait, this is insane. You can't possibly expect me
Destiny is at hand, young sorceress. The time to choose has come. For the fate of all who live, humanity must join forces with the Horde.
They then teamed up with the Night Elves, Malfurion and Tyrande.
We have no time for this, Furion. What are we doing out here?
Last night in a dream, a great raven spoke to me and summoned me to this place.
We were summoned here as well.
Who are you, Outlanders?
I am Thrall, son of Gul'dan, war chief of the Horde.
And I am Jaina Proudmoore, leader of the human survivors of Lordaeron.
You are not welcome here.
Peace, priestess. They've come to aid you against the Legion.
It was you in my dream. But who are you to make such an offer to us?
I am the reason for the Legion's return. Years ago, I brought the orcs into this world, and by doing so, I opened a path for the demons as well. For my sins, I was murdered by those who I cared for most. Despite my death, war raged across the lands of the East for many long years, leaving entire kingdoms devastated in its wake. Now, at long last, I have returned to set things right. I am Medivh, the last Guardian. I tell you now, the only chance for this world is for you to unite in arms against the enemies of all who live.
Humans, orcs, Tauren and Night Elves, a strange alliance was formed, but it would prove to be strong enough to stand against the Legion, and even defeat one of their commanders, our command.
The roots will heal in time, as will the entire world. The sacrifices have been made. Just as the orcs, humans, and night elves discarded their old hatreds and stood united against a common foe, so did nature herself rise up to banish the shadow forever. As for me, I came back to ensure that there would be a future, to teach the world that it no longer needed guardians. The hope for future generations has always resided in mortal hands. And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.
And so ends the story of the Guardians. The protection of this world is now in the hands of mortals. Or so you would think. There is currently a new Guardian on Azeroth, Medivh. But before we talk about Medivh, let me first tell you what happened to Aegwynn. After the alliance between Thrall, Jaina and the Night Elves, Thrall and Jaina decided to relocate to Kalimdor, where Jaina would build Fedamore and Thrall would build Orgrimmar. Old hatreds die very hard, and the orcs and humans were having a hard time living in peace, even after Jaina sacrificed her own father. Thrall and Jaina, they did their absolute best to keep the peace going, but it wasn't easy, and it almost looked like some external force was trying to manipulate events, trying to cause another war. One day, the forest around Thunder Ridge was removed by magic, which caused the Thunder Lizards to run rampant across the lands, destroying farms and causing all kinds of problems. Some orcs immediately blamed the humans, some were even suggesting that Jaina had something to do with this, but Thrall was wiser and he first wanted to find out what was going on. So he talked to Jaina and she promised him that she would take care of the situation. She planned on relocating the lizards to the Bladescar Highlands, where they wouldn't cause any more trouble. When she tried to teleport the lizards away, something prevented her from doing so, and it turned out to be magical wards, protecting the area from unwanted visitors. Jaina managed to locate the wards, and inside she found Aegwynn. Aegwynn had always been a role model to Jaina, a female mage who cleared the way for other females, who was accepted by the council, and she really looked up to the Magna. Aegwynn just laughed at what Jaina told her, and she explained bits and pieces of her true story. How arrogant she was, a fool for being manipulated by Sargeras, causing the first Orcish invasion. All of that story, everything she'd done wrong, Aegwynn felt guilty and a heavy burden on her shoulders. As they were talking, they felt that the magical wards around Aegwynn's place were reactivated, only this time they felt different. They could feel the magic behind them, and Aegwynn recognized it to be Smotlor's magic. Smotlor, the same demon Aegwynn defeated so many years ago in a school in the village of Jorthas. All Aegwynn wanted to do at this point was to live out the rest of her days away from the rest of the world, just waste away in her own self-pity, but Jaina wouldn't let her. Despite all of Aegwynn's mistakes, she never stepped away from her duty. She might have been wrong, but her motivations were always for the good of the world. Now, all these events between orcs and humans, the Burning Blade cult, magical wards made by Smotlor, it all came together, and Jaina knew that he was behind this. She brought Aegwynn with her, and at the end of the story they find the demon who caused all this trouble. Jaina tried to use her own magic with a spell created by Aegwynn. This spell would allow them to banish Smotlor back to the Twisting Nether, but at this point Jaina was tired. She didn't have enough power to defeat him alone, so Aegwynn grabbed Jaina and poured all of that magical power that she had gathered into Jaina. Aegwynn continued to focus, willing her life, her magic, her very soul to Jaina Proudmoore. Jaina opened her eyes. Normally an icy blue, they were now a fiery red. Combining their power, they managed to defeat the demon, and peace between Fedamore and Orgrimmar was restored. At least for the moment. Aegwynn nearly gave her life, but she survived that moment and she became Jaina's Chamberlain, giving her advice and telling her when she was wrong. In her role as Chamberlain, she assisted Jaina in helping Varian Rin. Varian was split into two by Onyxia's magic, and he was having trouble figuring out who he was and what had happened. Jaina and Aegwynn, they helped him with figuring out who exactly he was, and told him that he was the king of Stormwind. So at this point, Jaina and Aegwynn are working together. Varian was able to fix himself, defeat Onyxia and save Anduin. It's at this point in the story that we meet Medan, and there's so much going on, so many characters and different stories, that I'll have to do my best to keep it focused on Medan. Let's begin at the beginning. When Garona of Orcan was inside Karazhan, she met with Medivh and she grew to like him and trust him. In a moment where Sargeras' attention was elsewhere, Medivh managed to father a child with Garona, namely Medan. Medivh would eventually be defeated, and Garona betrayed the king because of that mind spell placed by Gul'dan. She knew from that moment on that she couldn't take care of this child, not without putting his life in danger, so when he was born, she gave the child to Merrill, the same undead mage Merrill that was part of the first council. Merrill raised Medan while never telling him about his parents, and Medan is a unique character, part orc, part Draenei, part human, and right at the start of the story, he's already able to wield the powers of a shaman, a mage, and he has the necessary skills to fight with a weapon. There's also a prophecy surrounding Medan which says the following. When the child of the three realms becomes as light, the ancient power will be released. The earth will tremble, the seas will rise up in answer, and all will be madness. A new day will dawn, bring with it chaos or peace. This prophecy found its way to Cho'gall, former student of Gul'dan, who now works for the old god Kafun. Kafun by this time is already defeated by us, but he's not killed, and Cho'gall plans to use Medivh and this prophecy to resurrect the fallen old god and bring about the end of the world. So what happens to Medivh? He's attacked by the Twilight's Hammer clan in order of Cho'gall. Garona jumps out of a tree and she saves him, but she does get captured herself. Even though she was afraid to raise Medivh, she couldn't just leave him to his fate and she always kept an eye on him. Garona is then taken to Ankirai, where Cho'gall awaits, and he uses that mind spell to force Garona to attack Faramore. Cho'gall was Gul'dan's student, as close as an ally Gul'dan ever had, so he knew how to use that magic. They wanted Garona to attack Faramore, since at that moment a peace summit between the Horde and Alliance was taking place. Medivh overhears Meryl talking, and he finds out that Garona is his mother, and he goes after her while Garona attacks Faramore. Remember that it was Garona who killed Varian's father. He saw her do this as a child, and when he saw her Faramore, he immediately accused the Horde of sending the same assassin after him. Garrosh took this very personal, and he blamed the Alliance for what was going on. Eventually, they managed to repel the attack. They nearly killed Garona, but Medivh jumped in and saved her life. Medivh then captured himself by the Twilight's Hammer clan, while Garona is put in chains at Faramore. This meant the end of any peace between the Alliance and the Horde. They didn't outright attack each other at that moment, but any negotiations were off the table. Each of them returned to their homes to eventually deal with the Lich King attacking Azeroth. Garona wanted to find her son, but there were spells placed on her minds blocking her from the truth. Jaina used her own magic to penetrate these blockades, which caused Garona agonizing pain, but in the end they found the truth. Cho'gall was in Ankirai, and that's where they would find Medivh. Valeera, together with Meryl, teleported to Ankirai in an attempt to save Medivh. We'll do a story on Valeera in the future, but what you need to know is that she met Varian while he was dealing with Onyxia. Onyxia wanted Varian dead, so she sent an assassin after him, and his warlock assassin placed a curse on Valeera called the Mark of Khafre-Natir. For those who've been paying attention, Khafre-Natir is the same demon that the first Guardian had to deal with. This mark placed the demon inside of her, and during her rescue attempt, she was forced to fight with Cho'gall. Cho'gall outpowered her greatly, so she accepted the demon inside of her. She accepted him taking over her body if it would allow them to defeat Cho'gall. Not even Khafre-Natir was powerful enough to defeat Cho'gall, but it did buy them enough time to rescue Medivh and teleport away. The demon tried to manipulate Medivh, tried to take over his mind and body, but Meryl stepped in and made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Exchanged the body of Valeera for Meryl himself. Now this ancient undead human also contained the spirit of Khafre-Natir, but Meryl was not just any mage, and he was able to contain the demon, at least for the moment. Meanwhile, back at Faramore, Garona is rescued by Vindicator Marad. Marad had found out that his sister's child was Garona, and it was actually a surprise for Garona herself. She always believed that she was half human and half orc, but Marad was positive that he was her uncle and that she had a major role to play against Cho'gall. Marad also met Medivh, and he taught him about the light, and he did this to keep the whispers of Kafun out of Medivh's head. He warned Medivh that it would take years to truly master the light, but Medivh instantly picked it up without any effort. Which meant that Medivh was safe for the moment, and they all sat down to talk about what was going on. They figured out that Cho'gall and Kafun were a huge threat to the world, especially since the Horde and Alliance were dealing with the Scourge attacks. Meryl told them about the first Council of Tirisfal, how they came together and funneled their powers into one. They decided that this was the way to go, that the Guardian had to return to battle against Kafun and Cho'gall. This time they wouldn't just use Magi. This time the council would consist of members from all kinds of magical origins. Druids, Magi, priests, shamans, all of them combining their powers. As they worked on creating the council, getting the members ready, Medivh took a trip with Marad to Outland, where he met Khadgar and they talked about his father. Medivh also received a vision from his father which summoned him to the Tower of Karazhan, but at first Medivh didn't want to go. Most believed that Medivh was truly evil, but Khadgar explained that Medivh was corrupted and he didn't really have a choice. This pushed Medivh into going to Karazhan, where the avatar of Medivh was waiting for him. This wasn't the real Medivh, this was his avatar, a vessel with his powers and memories, and he told Medan his life story. At the end, he offers Medan his remaining powers to use freely in any way that Medan desires. Medivh had no intention of forcing his son into a destiny or future, just like he and his mother were. Medan had a choice, and he chose to take the fight to Cho'gall, to use his powers for good and for the defense of Azeroth. There were two things required for the final battle. First, a new council which would empower Medan, and those part of the council were the following: Jaina Proudmoore, Human Mage; Dalinia Ravskar, Blood Elf Mage; Hamul Runetotem, Tauren Druid; Brawl Baremantle, Night Elf Druid; Marad, Draenei Paladin; Rohan, Dwarf Priest; and finally Rhaegar Earthfury, Orc Shaman. All these different sources of power, they combine themselves with Medan. Power we have, power we share, out of many into one. Even with this incredible power boost, Medan wasn't able to defeat Cho'gall, and the demon Khadgar Nazir managed to shake off Meadow's control, and he followed the stream of power back to the council. Now the council had to deal with this demon instead of linking their power with Medan, and this left Medan weakened. Aegwynn at that moment stepped up to the plate, and she sacrificed the last of her energies to empower her grandson, to buy the council enough time to restrain Khadgar Nazir and relink themselves with Medan. After all her battles, nearly giving up her life several times, this time the end had come. She poured her love and her strength into her grandson, and Medan was able to hold off Cho'gall, but he still was not able to defeat him. The second thing that Medan required was Aetius, Great Staff of the Guardian. This legendary staff was passed on from Guardian to Guardian, but it was shattered and only the bottom half somehow made its way into C'Thun. Garona had recovered the base inside the corpse of C'Thun, and after a long struggle she brought it to Medan. As the base touched Medan, he used his powers to restore it to its former glory and finally end the threat of Cho'gall. Cho'gall's mission had failed. C'Thun was not resurrected and the prophecy was fulfilled. When the child of the three realms, Draenor, Azeroth and Argus, becomes as light, the ancient power will be released. The earth will tremble, the seas will rise up in answer, and all will be madness. A new day will dawn, bring with it chaos or peace, and since the day was won, peace was found. Medan then returned his powers to the members of the council, and they buried Aegwynn next to Medivh at Karazhan. Garona had to leave her son again, because they might have stopped Cho'gall today, but he wasn't killed, and as long as he was alive, she was a threat to anyone around her. She would pursue Cho'gall all the way to the Twilight Highlands, where we could find her during the Cataclysm, but we would eventually be the ones who actually killed Cho'gall. The council, they broke up and they returned to their original roles within the Warcraft story. They haven't really mentioned the council or Medan ever since. There was a mention in Valen's short story about Medan, but other than that we haven't seen it in game, we haven't seen it in the stories. Some of you asked me if I think that we'll ever see this character in game and why people hate the character of Medan. I can't speak for everyone, so you'd have to ask them what their problem is with his character. But for me there are two things that stand out with Medan. First of all, he's just too damn powerful. He's a mage, a priest, a shaman, a warrior hybrid, and anything that he can't do he'll just pick up within seconds. That's insane, and that's saying something for the Warcraft universe, since we already have insanely powerful characters like Varian Wrynn, who has a demigod watching over him and empowering him, or Thrall, who got equal to the aspects during the Cataclysm. Imagine them placing an even more powerful character within the game. There would be nothing left to do for anyone. Old got trouble? Just send Medan. Sargeras knocking on a door? Send Medan after him. I think even Blizzard recognizes this, because they have been asked several times whatever happened to Medan, and apparently he's off on a different world studying or protecting it. He's gone. Let's just put it like that. He's not on Azeroth, he's not in the story, and yeah, he's not around. The second thing that bothers me about Medan is that creating him pretty much destroyed what Medivh did during Warcraft 3. Remember that Medivh wanted to teach the world that it could take care of itself, break the cycle so that it no longer needed to have guardians. It had such a beautiful ending, with even a little bit of speculation about Medivh, whether or not he's still around. Now with Medan, they completely went back on that decision, and it makes what Medivh did back in Warcraft 3, it just makes it silly. He could have just stepped in, fight the Burning Legion himself, and hand over his powers to his son. His son that he was able to make while being corrupted by Sargeras. which is also pretty damn impressive. There are more reasons to dislike his character, but that's mainly my feeling behind it. And to the question, will we ever see him in-game? I highly doubt it. Will Medivh ever make a return? Well, not unless they declare this comic as non-canon. Medivh handed over his powers to Medan, so he should be powerless. He should be gone. In the novel Twilight of the Aspects, he makes a cameo as Thrall travels through time. But that wasn't the return of Medivh, so as much as I would love to see it, I doubt he will ever come back. Not unless they do some serious retconning. What we can hope for is that they give him a part in the World of Warcraft movie, because that would be pretty damn cool. A corrupted Medivh out there with Lothar and Durotan. I would love to see that, but we'll just have to wait and see what they're going to do. With that, I think I've been talking for long enough, which makes this the end of my video and the end of the story of the Guardians. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed their stories. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time, guys, see ya!
And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.